rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Wow. A lot happened over the weekend with, obviously the storm has come in and all of that stuff. But outside of the weather, even all of the stuff that's going on in Minnesota, man, even today, there's just so much going on. But there was a piece, an opinion piece in the Federalist the other day, and I think it hits the nail right on the head in terms of what is happening in Minnesota. And so I'd like to get into that tonight and discuss it. And it's not anything new. This has actually been something that the Democrats have done in the past. It's called nullification. And it's an attempt. And they're still trying for it. We'll see if it actually comes to pass or not, but they're still trying for it. So, let's go ahead and get things kicked off tonight. On deck for the Pledge of Allegiance is none other than Nana of JJS, one of my unofficial producers. She is over in the green room warming up her vocal cords to be able to present a fantastic version of the pledge for all of you all. So, if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me, place your hand over your heart, and follow along with none other than Nana of JJS as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, Nana of JJS, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. Now, let's be honest. I mean, right now, Nana is just trying to get warm, according to Bonnie. Of course, Bonnie is just trying to get warm, too, because all you guys are in the back end of that that mysterious storm, cold and storm and everything. Yeah, Nana is trying to share her coldness with everybody. And, well, anyway. All right. By the way, if you want to become a part of that, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, attach it to an email address, and address that email to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans at AmericanPerspective.online, and I will get you into the rotation. I'm at 21 right now. I'd like to get 26 by the end of 2026. That's just 5 more. I think it's very doable. And so all I need is, of course, your help. If you record the pledge on your phone, you can also use the share option. That's S-H-A-R-E. Share option. And send it also to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And if the file happens to be too big to email, you can also upload it to any number of file sharing sites, Google Drive, Box, Dropbox. Most of that should all, of course, be able to create a link, and then, of course, send that link to me at fans at AmericanPerspective.online, and I'll get it downloaded and get it into the proper format and get everything set up for presentation here on the program. Anyway, all right. Let's get to tonight's headline sponsor. I'm wearing their Declaration of Independence shirt right here on the show. It is a fantastic group of individuals. They're based out of Florida, which is about ready to get cold, colder than normal. But go to theflagshirt.com. That's theflagshirt, all one word, .com. And you can go and check out all of their wonderful styles, like the one that I'm wearing with the Declaration of Independence. Fantastic. This is the men's cotton polo, man. They got a bunch of them. But go and check it out. Go to theflagshirt.com and men's, women's, made in the USA, kids, accessories in the good old red, white, and blue. And they also have, as you can see on the screen right now, they also have America's 250th anniversary. They've got plenty of styles available. Commemorate the 250th anniversary of this great nation by purchasing a shirt or a hat or something to demonstrate that you were here for America's 250th anniversary. And you can go and explore the collection for that at theflagshirt.com. And all of the wonderful things that are out there, all you need to do is go to theflagshirt.com and start clicking, putting it into your cart. And if you end up ordering $75 or more of their products, you will receive free shipping on them. But I know not everybody can order $75 or more of their products. Many of them, all you want is a t-shirt or a hat or maybe a combination, and it's less than $75, and you want a little something. Well, I'm going to help you out. If you go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, that's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, you will be presented with a coupon code that you can copy and paste into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com. That's flagshirt.americanperspective.online. Copy and paste that coupon code into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com and get $5 off your order on American Perspective. Head on over to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. All right, folks. Well, we all know that the Democrats work off of, and by the Democrats, I'm talking about the leftists, the non-leftists. I mean, they all do it. They all work off of what's called a hive mind. And the thing about it is they generally tend to recycle some of their strategies from history and the past. And it never really crossed my mind, honestly, which, for that I kind of fault myself, but it never really crossed my mind that what's going on in Minnesota may actually be a recycle of a strategy. And we all know that one of the things that they did during the Biden administration is they opened up the borders. Kamala Harris, had she won, would have continued that, and we would have ended up being flooded with all kinds of illegal aliens. And, of course, they sit there and they say, illegal aliens? No, they changed the language. It's now undocumented immigrants because they're softening the blow. And you have to wonder, why are they so excited about these illegal aliens that are coming into our country? Well, we all know that, number one, those same people, apparently, according to Minnesota, and the whole Somali daycare thing, the fraud, the food fraud, all of that, they funnel money around. Money that American taxpayers worked hard for and contributed, thinking that they were, doing something good. Yeah, that's what the Democrats are after. They want you to think that you're doing something good. They've been going after that all the time. Listen to how they argue. They don't argue on the facts. They don't argue on the basis of logic and reason. They don't argue on the they don't argue on the basis of intelligent discussion. They immediately go to the emotional. Oh, you're against the fraud in Minnesota? Well, that's because you don't want to feed kids. Or they'll go to something like, oh, you want ICE to go and do all these arrests and everything else? Well, you must be against due process. When all of that is a bunch of bupkis and bunk. Well, this isn't the only time that they've done it. And by the way, too, 3 Chevy also points it out, they're also looking for votes because they know that if they cannot get their policies across to the American people, which, by the way, on immigration, they don't. They don't have that. Illegal immigration is a 80-20, 80-20 issue. Most people are against it. The vast majority of Americans are against just illegal aliens. That's it. And so because of that, the Democrats are looking to bring in these people so that they can continue to vote. And I'll tell you why, too. Because if you seem to recall, Lyndon B. Johnson mentioned that he was going to have those N-word voting Democrat for 40 years. Well, just this past election, the coalition that typically keeps the Democrats in power has been completely shattered by Donald Trump. And so the Democrats have decided that they are going to, and also, too, keep in mind, the Democrats are looking for, totalitarian control, authoritarian control, everything that they blame Donald Trump for and say that Donald Trump is doing is actually what they are attempting to try and create and have things pass. Now, this isn't the only time that they have done what they're attempting to do in Minnesota. Now, what am I talking about? What I am talking about here, people, is pretty simple. What I am talking about is the pretty simple historical reason as to why we ended up in the Civil War. Because, see, our founding fathers originally, and the Articles of Confederation, by the way, was very weak. Very weak. I mean, it literally kneecapped the federal government in many areas. And so when the Constitution was proposed, when the Constitutional Convention was proposed, and James Madison wrote all of their, wrote the Constitution, they clearly, in terms of immigration in particular, they clearly said, well, you know what? The states, none of the states need to have control over immigration. And so one of the things that they did is they were like, hey, we're going to make immigration a sole custody of the federal government. And they created this concept with regards to immigration known as the naturalization process. They put it into Article 1, Section 8. And then, just to ensure that there wasn't any crossover between states and the federal government, just like there was under the Articles of the Confederation, they, the framers, in their brilliance, put in what's known as the Supremacy Clause. Now, the Supremacy Clause basically states that if there is any crossover between state law and federal law will trump it. No pun intended. Federal law will come first and be supreme. It is the supreme law of the land. Now, what does this do? This also makes it so that the states must enforce federal law. That's right. The states must enforce federal law. And so what happened? What happened in the startup or roundup to the start of the Civil War? Well, pretty close to what you're seeing today in Minnesota. The nullification crisis of 1832, when South Carolina declared federal tariffs to be null and void within boundaries of the state, and then President Andrew Jackson threatened to send in the U.S. Army to enforce law. You know, under that little thing known as the Insurrection Act that was passed in 1807. And what the Democrats of South Carolina did back then is essentially what the Democrats of Minneapolis are doing today. They are attempting to set up a nullification crisis. They're trying to make it nearly impossible to enforce federal immigration law in Minnesota. And why do you think all these sanctuary states who are coming out in these sanctuary cities who are saying, hey, we're not going to help. We're not going to help, even though, again, as I just pointed out to you, they have to. They have to. Okay? They have to. There is no choice here. When all of the states signed on to the Constitution as they were joining the Union, they agreed that the Supremacy Clause applied, that the federal government, meaning the Constitution of the United States, trumps everything else. They have no other choice. They must enforce federal law. And all these leftists who are out there who are saying, no, they don't, no, they don't. Yes, they do. That is part of the agreement when the state joined the Union. Now, here's what happened. And when you're sitting here thinking, okay, all these sanctuary laws, yes, you keep, you know what, you break a law, we're just gonna, let you go with a slap on the wrist. Yeah, we don't care. We don't care. You're here illegally? Yeah, okay, we don't care. But notice that this is only happening in Minnesota. Texas, Florida, they pick up, I don't know, I've heard numbers as much as 10 times as many illegal aliens as Minnesota has. And yet you don't hear a single word of rioting in Texas, of rioting in Florida. You don't hear a single word of rioting any other place than some of these places that are considered sanctuary places, whether it's sanctuary cities or sanctuary states. And the reason why you're not hearing about it is because it frankly isn't happening. See, Texas and Florida and their people, their governors, their sheriffs, their local law enforcement, their police officers, they all know they have an obligation under the Constitution to enforce federal law. They also are, as I pointed out with Sheriff Judd, that they are signing up to help as required by the Constitution of the United States. Now, why is Minnesota such a powder keg? Well, here's why. And this is what the leftists do not want you to know. There is a full-on, full-scale, coordinated effort in an attempt to get the federal government to back down in Minnesota. These leftist groups have decided that they want Minnesota to be the place where the next civil war starts. And they're attempting to do it via nullification. Because, again, this is kind of what happened during the Civil War. Because during the Civil War, when the Emancipation Proclamation came through and President Lincoln said, hey, we're going to free all of the slaves, what did the states do? The southern states immediately said, hey, you guys are destroying our lifestyle. We do not agree. We're done. Even though they signed up for the Constitution, which basically said that if the federal government has a law that conflicts with state government, that the federal law is supreme. It is the supreme and the Supremacy Clause, the supreme law of the land. So, what do you think Minnesota is trying to do? Think about this. Governor Walz is standing up, and Mayor Frey, okay? Fry, whatever his frickin' name is. They're all standing up in front of the cameras and everything else, and they are basically saying, hey, guess what? We don't want you here. Get out. ICE, get out. Now, here's the thing. Somebody made a comment about, oh, well, wait a minute. Why is Border Patrol for an example, in this last horrific incident, why is Border Patrol in this area? Why is Border Patrol making these arrests? And realistically, it's plain and simple. Because the local law enforcement is literally refusing to do their job. Now, whether that's coming from their higher-ups, their people at the top of the food chain, or whether that's going all the way through the entire department, doesn't make a difference. Because what's happening here is these law enforcement officers, the Minneapolis PD, is being told, no, you're not protecting ICE. You're not doing anything to help ICE. You're not going to do a damn thing to help them. And in fact, when you arrest somebody, you find out they're illegal, you just release them. That's the policies. That's under the sanctuary state, city, locale policies. That's how that works. They don't want to enforce any of that. And so they have set themselves up for essentially the nullification. They're trying to nullify federal immigration law. Now, what happens when that happens? Well, you nullify federal immigration law, guess what? Now you have open borders again. Because what protects our borders? Oh, immigration law. Coming in here under immigration law is what opens the open borders. This is just a continuation of what Biden and what the Biden administration is doing. That's all this is. It's a continuation of that. Now, unfortunately, you have brainwashed, sycophantic morons such as Renee Good, such as this Pretty guy, or Pretty, however it's pronounced, Pretti. See, these people have been brainwashed by the leftist propaganda machine to think that ICE is, one, not an official law enforcement organization, two, that they have no say or no power to arrest other people. And they're sitting here saying that, oh, they're whipping up the frenzy, the emotional frenzy of all of the people in Minnesota. And you're sitting here and you're thinking to yourself, now, wait a minute. We're going to just go and nullify these laws. That's what we're looking for. Look about what Frey and Walls have been saying. Oh, if you guys just leave, all of this will go away. Well, yeah, of course it'll go away because you'll go back to no longer enforcing federal law, which is, by the very definition, insurrectionist. They're sitting there and they're like, hey, you know what? If we can get the federal government to leave and we can nullify this law, then maybe we can start saying, hey, the federal government isn't enforcing immigration law here in Minnesota, so now we're going to go to the courts. We're going to file a court case. We're going to file a lawsuit against the federal government for the fact that, hey, if you're doing that in Minnesota, you need to do it everywhere else. So guess what? Now that makes all immigration law null and void. Really? That's what they're looking for, folks. They want to get rid of immigration law. People, these leftists, this is a coordinated attack on the United States. This is a coordinated attack on the United States. Because of the fact that they have gone and done, and granted, this is, sanctuary jurisdictions have been around for quite some time, but nobody's really gotten to a point where they've wanted to enforce it. This is the head, if you will, of the pimple of these morons. This is the head. See, what they're doing with these sanctuary jurisdictions is they're making it so that local law enforcement is barred from cooperating with federal enforcement. Because what's normally supposed to happen is when you pick up a criminal, that criminal pops in the system. They're supposed to hand that person over, because they're an illegal alien to ICE in a controlled, orderly, safe manner. None of that is happening here because of the fact that the leaders are all in a coordinated effort attempting to make it so that the federal government backs down. That's what they're looking for. And you don't think this is coordinated? Well, first of all, just look at all of the Democrats across the board. Every single Democrat has talked about how they are not going to vote for DHS funding. Department of Homeland Security is a lot more than just ICE. But yet here we are, again, at another potential shutdown. And what are these people doing? They are talking about shutting down the government over DHS funding. See, this is just another Rahm Emanuel's never let a crisis go to waste. This is just another one of those. Now, look, you could sit here and argue all day about Renee Good. I guarantee you it was a justifiable self-defense shooting. That's all the video shows it. But this last incident that has happened is not quite so clear. And so what the left is being able to do with this last incident, and the reason why I say it's not quite so clear and clear-cut is because of a couple different reasons. First of all, there's the guy who was involved. Yes, he was out in the street before ICE or before the Border Patrol even approached him. He was out in the street. Now, his purpose for being in the middle of the street at the start of the video is unclear. Some people say he was there to direct traffic. He had no official reason to be directing traffic. Okay? So therefore, he, by himself, standing in the middle of the road like that, was actually in the misdemeanor level violation of Title 18, Section 111, which is impeding and obstructing the operation. Now, all of that being said, he should have just gotten arrested, no problem whatsoever, right? Okay. There was a woman who was with him. And the woman and he both got hit with pepper spray. Now, you can't really hear very well in the videos because of all the stupid-ass whistles that are running around in the local vicinity, so you can't really tell what's going on, per se, directly with the Border Patrol and the two individuals involved. But at one point, the woman appears to have been shoved down by Border Patrol. My guess is that Border Patrol was basically saying, get up onto the sidewalk and pushed him or pushed her out of the way. Now, the next moment that you see is that he is filming ICE. He reaches down to pick her up. That's injecting himself into the situation. And once again, given the situation, that's going on in Minnesota, nerves being rubbed raw, Border Patrol acting just like ICE, not getting any support from any police department, no help whatsoever from the local constabulary, and they are on their own. And so what are they doing? Well, they're trying to perform their job. They're trying to do the operations. And so things get rubbed a little raw. The guy, maybe he has some exchanges, some words, who knows? All I know is the next thing on the videotape is that he is being detained and arrested by Border Patrol. Now, during the scuffle, where he is essentially refusing to lay down peacefully, quietly, he is not in any way, shape, or form going into, a limp fish or anything like that. So that, by legal definition itself, is resisting arrest. if they grab your arm and they tell you to get down on the ground, and you refuse to get down on the ground, that is the legal definition of resisting arrest. So they wrestle him to the ground. Now, in the process of that, his concealed weapon is exposed. And at that point, pretty much all bets are off. Because the police officers, believe me, you talk to any police officer, you say the word gun and they all react. They all react. And there's one agent that pulls his firearm from his waistband. You do see that. Now, he's on his hands and knees, but he's not going down flat. He is not laying down. You can see there's two or three other Border Patrol on him. He is not laying flat. He is still not doing what they are asking. And again, just at a very basic low level, that is a legal definition of resisting. Okay? Now, whether he intended to resist, whether he wasn't in like fisticuffs. No, he wasn't in that position, but he was resisting. And that, by legal definition, it was there. Now, you add to that the fact that they have a gun. Well, now all of a sudden you have a bit of a problem. Because now this person, who would normally be just a relatively simple subduing of a threat, has now elevated the threat level even higher. Because they found a weapon on him. How many more does he have? Does he have another gun? Is it possible he has a knife? He has something else? No, he did not do what every single concealed carry permit class that I have ever heard from has ever said. He did not comply. Period. Now, there's some question as to whether or not he actually had a permit. Even so, whether he had the permit, legally held a permit or not, it doesn't matter. If he didn't physically have it on him, he was in violation of Minnesota statutes 624.714, subsection 1B. The holder, and this is 1B, subsection A. Here, let me just go ahead and show you. So right here. Display of permit, penalty. The holder of a permit to carry must have the permit card and driver's license, state identification card, or other government-issued photo identification, and this is the key, in immediate possession at all times when carrying a pistol. Now, he isn't required to show it to the law enforcement officers unless they ask for it by statute. But no offense, I'm certainly not going to want to have to, or not certainly not going to want to surprise a law enforcement officer in any way. And especially if you're being taken down, you've got two people on you. You don't sit there and continue to reach in your pocket for anything until they tell you to do so. Okay? And that, in and of itself, is enough to alert anyone, regardless of whether you're a police officer or not. If I am in an altercation and somebody is continually trying to reach into a pocket or a waistband or something like that, my first thought is, you're going for a weapon. And that weapon could have been something as simple as mace, could have been something a little bit higher in terms of like a knife, or even more, it could have been another gun. Now, there is some question in terms of the timing of the shots. And I got to be clear on this. As the agent who obtained the firearm from the man's waistband is walking away from the scene in an attempt to safely remove the firearm from that situation, you hear a shot go off Now, there is some question, and this is what the investigation is going to eventually, hopefully, show and demonstrate. But there is some question as to whether or not the firearm itself discharged. And here's why. That 6-hour P320 model of firearm was actually taken out of law enforcement use by many different law enforcement agencies because of the fact that it could fire on its own. Now, there's a reason why many people don't seem to understand this, but it is always recommended when you're concealed carrying that you don't carry around in the chamber. Some people agree with that, some people don't. That is not my decision here. However, that being said, this particular model of firearm, the 6-hour P320, seems to have a track record and has had lawsuits from police departments to Sig Sauer over this exact problem. Meaning that all it takes for the firearm itself to get discharged is a healthy jolt, or dropping it, or bumping it, or something like that. And the challenge here is whether or not, in the process of removing the firearm, whether or not that particular firearm discharged on its own. Now, it's difficult to see from the video, no matter what angle you're at. There's only one angle that actually shows and demonstrates that the agent actually had the firearm in his hand. But when it discharges, or when there is a discharge, that is what triggers the other Border Patrol agent to draw his weapon and start firing. Now, I'm just going to point this out. Regardless of what the intent was, regardless of whether or not the man was actually not doing any of this, I'm just going to point this out. That under all pre-established law, under all policy, is in almost every single law enforcement location across the globe, or across the country at least, all it takes is for an officer to have a reasonable belief that either he or fellow officers or innocent bystanders are under threat of serious harm or death in order to be able to use lethal force. You don't have to have physical contact. These people don't have to shoot first. You just need to have a reasonable suspicion that if the person's action, whatever action they're taking, could possibly result, in your mind, in serious harm or death, that it is a justified shooting. Leftists, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to deal with it. Because you people are completely stupid. And the reason why I say you people are completely stupid is because, number one, you're getting brainwashed by these leftist propagandist machine who are sitting here, and, trying to rile you up because you are the useful idiots that are essentially helping them to achieve their goal. Their goal is the nullification of immigration law. Now, Coco asks, if the round went off, does that mean that he had the safety off? No, that's the problem. This particular model, P320, has a problem with firing even when the safety is on. It's a mechanical issue with regards to the trigger and the safety mechanism. And so this is part of the problem, is that we don't know, number one, if this guy was even aware of this manufacturer's defect, or whether or not he bothered to get the remedy, which was essentially Sig Sauer was saying, hey, if you contact us, we'll give you a new trigger assembly that you can install, and that should take care of the problem. We have no idea whether any of that happened. assuming, of course, that the P320 actually did discharge as a part of this process. Now, all of this stuff is supposition, but that seems to be the new narrative that is running around, at least in the conservative circles, is that there is a very good possibility that this P320 did fire off a round on its own, mechanical failure, on its own, and because of that is why you saw the reaction from the Border Patrol, and unfortunately where the man lost his life. Now, I'm going to step back for a second, regardless of any of all that I've just told you, regardless of any and all that I have outlined for you in terms of the tragedy of this particular situation. Because there's a fact that everybody doesn't seem to want to follow, which is basically this. This guy should have listened to his parents. And here's why. In an interview, his father told the Associated Press that they had a conversation. Now, this kid, this guy, whatever, he's 37, I guess, whatever. And, of course, the news is trying to show, he was an ICU nurse at a VA hospital. He's a selfless healthcare worker, blah, 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 blah. They point out all of these things, except there's only one problem. This Associated Press, which I'm actually surprised the Associated Press bothered to print this, but apparently his father and him had a discussion. It was 2 weeks ago, roughly. 2 weeks ago. And apparently his father said, as a part of the conversation, that it was like, hey, go ahead and protest, but do not engage. Do not do anything stupid, basically. His father says that the man did say that he knew it. He knew he shouldn't have engaged. And again, I go back to, when you look at both incidences with Renee Good and with this guy, Alex Preddy, when you go back to both of these and you look at the video, there is one simple overriding decision that was made by both these people. And that was their decision to join in an operation, a literal operation, that was designed to obstruct ICE. That's exactly what this is. Now, what is interesting and somewhat unironic in this entire situation is that this guy was part of another far-left group. So apparently, according to new reports, this guy was part of a group, part of a very organized group, by the way, that is spent 24/7, 365 to search out, find, and disrupt these operations. This is a funded group somewhere, and it's all coordinated by Signal messaging. So Signal being the app. Now, Cam Higbee from Newsmax, hat tip to him, he spent days undercover in these groups with these activists. And the Signal app is used to coordinate the efforts. Now, he found all kinds of information. For an example, it's not just angry citizens that are showing up, okay? It's a well-oiled machine. They have specific chaser operations that go all night. They have dispatchers that are doing this 24/7, that are getting reports coming in and sending them out. They are broken up. The entire area of Minneapolis is broken up into quadrants, regions, and you sign up for specific regions, and some people are doing specific things. They go around, they find these people, and they go and they try and disrupt. They use emojis next to members' names to denote specific roles as a part of this organization. There's mobile patrols searching for federal vehicles, foot patrols working the streets, dispatchers running constant calls directing people to go where all of these people are going to be, and also how best to interfere with their operations. They have license plate checkers that are going through that maintain databases of known federal vehicles. This organization apparently even has medics standing by. They run in shifts. They're clocking in and out, just like any other organization, organized operation. Each area of Minneapolis, like I said, has its own group chat. Cities carved up into patrol zones. Tell activists exactly where to operate. The chats max out at 1,000 members by midday, get deleted and recreated daily to avoid detection. He's got Cam Higbee has posted this all over X. He's got it he's listing admins lists for these chats. Code names are being used. This is a highly coordinated, highly organized event. And this guy, both Renee Good and this guy who just got shot, were both part of it. This is not some just, hey, we're a bunch of people who just show up and we're protesting over the fact that you're here. No, this is coordinated, which means that it's a conspiracy, which means that it is illegal. Well, it's illegal to interfere with operations anyway, but now all of a sudden you have these things being coordinated by some entity, some group, apparently well-funded group that is going around and attempting to find these places. And there's more. There's training materials as well. There's training materials. They have an entire manual. Believe me, this thing is huge. Cam Higbee pointed that out. He points it out. He's like, here's an entire training manual for the patrols. He's got it all up on his X account. Go to @CamHigbee, Higbey, @CamHigbee, and you'll find it all. These materials and the setup for this system indicate that someone with money is all behind this. These materials mention patrol training, mention to use the Signal chat system. There's sophisticated maps. The city's broken up into the zones, like I was said, based on loosely city council districts. There's all kinds of information and stuff that this is happening. This is a coordinated effort, folks. And just because of the fact that Renee Good and Alex Pretty were so damn stupid and so damn brainwashed and so idiotic to be able to understand that they were pawns in this game, in the idea, the attempt to try and get immigration enforcement nullification to occur, immigration law to nullification to occur. See, this is the problem with the left. They are so damn easily brainwashed, and this is part of the reason why I call them complete, utter, stupid morons, because that's what they are. They got involved with this rather than stepping back and going, hey, let's take a look at this from a fact-based perspective, meaning, is this guy really supposed to be here? Is this guy, did he get involved? He did. Renee Good, is she just some mother that backed off into the street and, oh my God, now she's surrounded by... No, she wasn't. These are coordinated efforts, and all of these people are under the fallacy idea that just because you're not enforcing the law means that you can pick and choose whatever you want. Now, folks, this has happened throughout history. I told you about what happened with the Civil War, but it's even happened in other places. For an example, Little Rock, Arkansas, where the Insurrection Act was invoked in order to facilitate integration of schools. It was also used in Berkeley. Because these people, these leftists, they don't change their strategy much. It was used in Berkeley. And, believe it or not, Ronald Reagan, my favorite guy, Ronald Reagan, my favorite president. Well, outside of like George Washington and stuff. But my favorite president called them out for it. And he called them out in a most spectacular way. Here's 14 seconds of him calling out the leftist lunatics at Berkeley just for what is happening in Minnesota. Take a listen.
All of it began the first time some of you who know better and are old enough to know better let young people think that they had the right to choose the laws they would obey as long as they were doing it in the name of social protest.
I want to play that again because, first of all, I didn't have it full screen. But I want to play that again so you guys can hear it again. Here, let's take a listen. He's calling it out right here, right now. This is exactly the reason why all of this crap is happening in Minnesota.
All of it began the first time some of you who know better and are old enough to know better let young people think that they had the right to choose the laws they would obey as long as they were doing it in the name of social protest.
And there it is. What is happening in Minnesota, folks? What is happening in Minnesota is exactly that. The leftists of the Democrat Party, and even the Democrat Party complicit itself, they are attempting to basically tell you and tell the poor public, tell the world that, hey, you're allowed to not enforce federal law because you're a sanctuary city. You're allowed to do that when you're not. And it's all because people who should know better should be like, oh, no, wait a minute. I mean, if I'm supposed to enforce federal law all the time, why would I get to pick and choose the laws that I'm going to enforce? You can't, which is the entire freaking point. The entire point of nullification is an attempt to demonstrate that, hey, the law is nullified because nobody bothers to enforce it. Why do you think we have so many stupid laws on the books that are still there, but nobody bothers to enforce them? That's exactly what nullification is. And that is what these people up in Minnesota are using, the stupid idiots, the useful idiots of these leftist groups who are too damn dumb to understand that, one, it is illegal. Two, it is a requirement of the federal government and the states to enforce federal law. And three, they're being used because of their stupidity to do crap like what Renee Good and Alex Pretty did, which is essentially their stupid decisions ended up with their deaths. They lost their lives because they literally were dumb. They performed a dumb action because they jumped in it with their emotions and not understanding that, hey, wait a minute, let's take a breath and figure this out. See, you don't see any of this stuff happening in all parts of the country because, believe me, ICE is everywhere. They are all over. But the only place that you're seeing this happen is up in Minnesota. Because the Minnesota people, the government, and it's not just Tim Walz and not just Fry, it's everybody. Even the damn police chief is jumped on it. And by the way, now Barack Obama has jumped in. And you think that this is something that he is, I mean, the first thing that he should be doing as a former president, honestly, is to be saying the exact same thing that Ronald Reagan said, which is, you people think you have the right to pick and choose which freaking law you're going to uphold? Barack Obama and Joe Biden both performed operations to get illegals out of the country. Every single president has done it. And yet, for some damn reason, now he comes out and he's like, no. More protests. We need more protests. And by the way, Donald Trump is to blame. And Tim Walz is saying stuff like, oh, this is Minnesota's version of Anne Frank, which again is a whole bunch of bullshit. The whole thing is bullshit. All of this standing up in front of the cameras and trying to, this is Anne Frank. These are Nazis. These are the Gestapo. They're the Donald Trump brown shirts. All of this is performative for one thing. That is to get the American people to go and nullify immigration law. To get the federal government to stop enforcing immigration law. They spent 4 years with Joe Biden at the helm, not enforcing immigration law. They spent 8 years under Obama with the idea that they were going to eventually nullify immigration law. The Democrats right now are in Congress sitting there saying, we don't want to fund DHS because they don't want immigration law enforced. This is the problem. This is the problem. And this is the issue. Folks, if you're a dumbass out protesting ICE, if you're a dumbass who participates in this stuff, I'm sorry, you have been played. You are going against what is supposed to be our country. The U.S. has prided itself on many, many years of being a law and order. We create a law, we follow the law, we enforce the law, all of this. And what are we doing right now? They're trying to nullify this law. They're trying to nullify this. Even the Minneapolis police chief, oh my gosh, he said this the other day. He actually said this. The police chief on a video basically stated that he wants the mob to rule. That's what they're after. They don't like the constitutional republic because it protects the individual. He thinks that the mob should rule, which is exactly what the definition of democracy is. Yeah. Exactly. That's what he's doing. This is so ridiculous. And now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. Every single thing that I've seen so far has all pointed to the exact same thing. Leftists, I swear, you are the most brainwashable people in the world. You have no common sense, no logic, no reason, no basis in facts, no basis in evidence, no basis in all of this. What you do is you jump from one emotional thing to the other. And that's all it is. And that's all that is. By the way, a couple of the, this whole Signal chat, a couple of the accounts have been shown apparently, or have been traced. Now, I don't know if this is 100% true, but it looks like they've been found out that there are at least 2 Democrat Minnesota state officials and a campaign advisor to Tim Walz who are actually admins as a part of that Signal chat groups. Folks, this is a coordinated effort. This is another effort from the left to try and destroy what we have built over the last 250 years with regards to law, order, creating law, enforcing law, and this is an attempt to start the next civil war through nullification, which is exactly where the beginnings of our last civil war came from. I've got so much more to talk about. I can't even imagine this. I mean, I may have to I don't know. I'm going to have to figure out what I'm doing. But anyway, I'm out of time for tonight. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you're signed up and signed in, search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit thumbs up, thumbs downs, or thumb sideways if you're 3 Chevy across all my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, or, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.